welcome to Class 22. We're going to be working on assignment 32 today and also looking at possessive nouns and pronouns. This is term 2B for the class OLC 40. It is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. We are in the 6th week, so if you're trying to get finished before graduation, please be aware you have basically 4 weeks to finish. All assignments must be handed in by June 13th. June 14th, people can write the exam if they wish. I strongly suggest trying to get things done before then so that there's enough time for marking and to make sure there's any revisions if you need to do revisions. If you are at the spot where you're ready to write the exam, let me know or let the DEC in your area know, okay? Here's the contact information page. Whenever you hand in work, please send it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. If you are doing this during the summertime, please also include jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. I'm not here in the summertime. I will be getting your marking, but I won't be physically in the building, so please send it to that email as well. If you're trying to reach me, you can also reach me on Facebook, capital G, capital P, ERCY, space, capital W, AHSA. Previous classes are on YouTube at the same address. Let's see, studio 1-800-465-7144. If you want to talk to me at the office, 1-800-667-3703. I'm here most days between 12 and 7, although I do take a lunch break in there. Okay. Today's work, learn how to show possessions with nouns and pronouns, understand subject pronouns and other types of pronouns, understand different types of tone and voice. I'm going to take out style because I took style out because it's just such a problem. I don't know. It's one of those funny words. Style and voice, understand how audience affects tone, voice, level of language, format, all those kind of things. So I made a few little changes today. Reflecting on your understanding of tone, voice, audience, all those kind of good things. Okay, in English, when we want to show that an item belongs to someone or something, we usually add an apostrophe and an S. An apostrophe looks like a comma that's kind of hanging in the air, and then an S. So for example, Fred's backpack, Mom's car, Kukum's house, Lukey's boat. Now normally an S on the end of a noun shows that there's more than one, but in this case the apostrophe S means, hey, this is the backpack that belongs to Fred. This is the car that belongs to Mom. This is the house that belongs to Kukum. This is the boat that belongs to Lukey, okay? But we've used the apostrophe S as sort of a short form, okay? This works when the word is singular, in other words, when there's only one of them. If the word is plural, in English, it usually already ends in an S. So we don't add an extra S on top. Otherwise, you'd be like, Mom's car. It doesn't make sense, right? The student's food. It starts to seem very silly. So then what we do instead is we just put the apostrophe after the S instead of the front of the S. So it shows, hey, here's this S that already counts to show plurality, and the apostrophe afterward is just letting you know belonging. The student's lounge, the teacher's parking lot, our dog's food, the province's agreement. And there's no extra or different sound. It's a visual thing. You have to see it. If you hear it, I think in context, it's very obvious when you're speaking, but visually, it's just that little apostrophe that shows it to you. Now, there are some words in English that are irregular, and they are plural words, plural nouns, but they don't end in an S. And when that happens, it's okay to just use the apostrophe and S. For example, the children's playground. Children is already a plural, but it doesn't end in S. So it's fine to add the apostrophe S. The oxen's barn, the men's retreat, the women's dinner party, the geese migration route. That's a funny one. Even though the S isn't at the end visually, it's the last sound that you hear. So it's still just that apostrophe. Okay, possessive pronouns. Sometimes we don't always have a noun there to show the possession of the belonging. Sometimes it's a pronoun. So we have special pronouns that we use that show possession. We no longer use the apostrophe with pronouns. So for example, I might say, I like my new shoes. I wouldn't say I like I's new shoes. It doesn't work in English that way. Let's drive your car. Not use car, your car. His textbook was stolen, which does sound an awful lot like he's, doesn't it? Or her makeup looks great. The dog knocked over its food dish. We don't use a plural for this one. There is a plural format where you'll see it apostrophe s, but in that case it's not showing possession, it's showing that it's the short form or the contraction of the word itness. That's a one that's really commonly mixed up in English because they sound exactly the same and they look pretty close too. In plural pronouns, we have our family is blue, or sorry, our house is blue. Sorry, my eyes jumped to the next word. My family is not blue. Your family is very nice. Their brother is the mayor. Okay. Quick reminder, we've also covered these before, but subject pronouns come before the verb, and they show who is initiating the action, or the verb. I'm not sure what that meant here. The action of the verb. I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not sure what they're talking about here. Okay. I have my homework done. You are my best friend. He is bringing home pizza. She is not ready to go swimming. It can be referring to an animal or an object or a concept. Like if I was talking about economics or something, I could say it is a hard subject to understand, and it's referring to the concept of economics. It is a windy day outside. My key is lost. Do you know where it is? And it is referring to key. Plural, we've got we will go shopping. You as a plural, we don't say use. We just still say you. If I was talking to, say, a class, I might say, grade ones, you need to sit down now. And I still mean every single one of them. I don't need to add an S to show that. They is both for people, and it can also be used for inanimate objects. Like if I was talking about one cow, I would say it. But if I was talking about a whole bunch of cows, I might say they are in the pasture. I don't know, we don't really have a plural form that still shows that it's not a person. I think because it is already being used so often, we don't really have a third form of it that works. Here's an example. The chairs don't go with the table because they were bought at a different store. And here they is referring to chairs. So that's kind of confusion. I know some languages, the pronouns would always indicate whether it's talking about people or non-people. But unfortunately in English, especially for that particular one, it can get a little bit confusing. There are also object pronouns. Object pronouns receive the action, right? So I would be the me in the object. You would still be you, stays the same. I don't know why. He becomes him. She becomes her. It also stays the same. We would become us, and they becomes them. So like mom gave the present to me. We wouldn't say to I, because we're trying to show that they're the object or that they're receiving the action. Dad gave the groceries to you. That one doesn't change. I ran to him when I heard the noise. I told her that I was tired. The dog wants it, and again, that doesn't change. Come to the movies with us. You could go bowling with them. Okay? So that's one of those finicky things in English. It's not always super obvious, but it is kind of important. It sounds very funny, if you don't use the correct type of pronoun there. Okay, so lesson 12, we've been covering a lot of very basic concepts. This lesson kind of moves into more complicated areas. We're talking about more subtle things here, okay? It talks about how it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. As you've probably noticed throughout this course, knowing your purpose and audience before you start writing helps you choose an appropriate writing form, which is sometimes called a format. So for example, if you're trying to inform people about an event, you might choose the format of a news article. If you're trying to persuade someone to buy something, you might choose some sort of ad. If you want to entertain people, you might choose a song or a poem, a novel, a short story, or many other formats. But we can also adjust other parts of our writing besides just the format. So for example, one common way to alter our communication is through our language level. Language level is about how hard or how easy your writing is to understand. And we do this automatically as we speak. No one talks to, say, a 2-year-old with great big words and ultra long sentences because they know we won't understand it. We tend to choose simpler words and shorter sentences that have a better chance, chance of being understood by our 2-year-old audience. And it isn't just always an age factor, but age is definitely one of the factors that we look at, right? If we're talking to 12-year-olds, we don't necessarily talk to them the same way we might talk to, a 20-year-old. And we might not talk to somebody very old in quite as complicated a fashion if they're beginning to, suffer from dementia or something like that. So it really kind of depends. And obviously, you're also looking at language level and all sorts of different things, right? Generally speaking, shorter and more commonly used words help to create an easier language. In other words, it's easier to understand. Likewise, shorter and simpler sentence patterns are also easier to understand as well. Another aspect of writing that may be changed is called tone. Tone conveys a sense of emotion or our attitude towards something. Our tone may also change according to our audience, our format, and our purpose. In speech, we often convey our attitude through the volume or the sound of our words. Someone who's angry may have a very loud volume with a very harsh tone. But we can also convey tone in our writing. We just can't do it with sound. In writing, we convey tone in types of words we use, the length or variety of our sentences, and the types of examples or the details that we give. So tone may be very formal, like in school or business, or it might be very informal, like how you talk to your friends. A tone can be very playful or humorous. It could be angry or joyful, encouraging, or really any other feeling or attitude. You'll really notice this if you look at like magazines, right? So a magazine that's written towards teens might come off very different than a magazine that's written towards senior citizens, and that might come off very different than a magazine that's written towards university professors studying physics, for example, right? So tone can adjust quite strongly and have a very strong effect on your audience. So learning to adjust your writing and your speaking skills for different audiences and different purposes is a very important element of literacy. So after all, you need to communicate with a wide variety of people, right? Not just with your teacher. So for this reason, you're going to take a close look at form, tone, and language level and see how it relates to the purpose of your communication, whether it's to ask to speak to a friend on the phone or to respond to a personal question in a job interview. It also can be affected by the intended audience, for example, the chief of your First Nation or versus your gookum or your best buddy, right? All those things kind of affect how we talk or how we write. So this is called Subject, Audience, and Purpose, Assignment 32. A writer must ask themselves 3 questions before beginning to write. What is my subject? Like, what am I talking about? Who is my audience? And what is my purpose? The subject is simply the topic of the written word, right? There's as many things to write about as there are people to write. Once you decide on a subject, you usually have to narrow it down a little bit to make it more manageable and less scary. The more specific the topic, the more precise the writing, and that's what you want. Writing that's too general tends to be a bit boring to read, whereas writing that's very specific with interesting details and examples is way more interesting to read. The way I've often heard it explained is as a type of funnel. Sometimes we pick a topic that's too big for the amount of space that we have to write it in, so we have to make the topic more narrow and small so it will fit into our space. So for example, snowmobiles is a very big topic. There are literally hundreds of things you could say or write about snowmobiles. You could write in different formats such as poems, news articles, procedurals, or journals, or even textbooks. You could pick which format works best for what kind of information you're wanting to convey and what your purpose is for this writing. Like, are you trying to write to someone to persuade them to buy a certain type of snowmobile? Or are you trying to entertain them with a funny story about snowmobiles? Or are you trying to inform them about all the great specs of the latest snowmobile that's out? You have to think about how much space you have to write. If you want to write everything there is to know about snowmobiles, you're going to need to write a textbook. But if you're only writing a small paragraph, which is pretty typically what we're writing these days, sometimes we're writing a page or two, you're going to need to make your topic much smaller and more specific in order to cover it effectively. So even if you narrowed snowmobiles down to Arctic cat snowmobiles, that's still way too general and too big of a topic, okay? I'm going to add that here. And too big of a topic. You need to narrow it down or make it smaller so you can figure out what you want to focus on. If Jimmy were writing, maybe he might write about something like how to change a spark plug in a snowmobile. Or maybe why is the Arctic cat the best snowmobile to buy? So here, those are different types of writing. We are just imagining these topic ideas. We're not having to write the actual paragraph. And I'm going to repeat that several times because I continually get people handing me in several paragraphs of work, and that's not really what we're looking for here, okay? So let's say I want to write about being a parent. Well, an entire book's been written about parenting. So what are some smaller topics that might work in a paragraph? Might be my favorite memory as a parent, how to get your child to bed on time, why outdoor time is good for children, helping your child become bilingual, the hardest thing about parenting. Those are all different topics that I might write about, okay? That's the kind of thing we're looking at here. So for this assignment, they're giving you the big subject. They want you to narrow it down into a smaller, more manageable topic, but you do not have to write the actual paragraph. Just state your idea for it. That's it. This is so simple that I think students just don't believe me. Just give me two possible small topics that you could write a paragraph on. That's it. I promise. This is me pinky swearing. Here I am. I promise, okay? So here is an example of what you might see. If the big topic is spring, two smaller topics might be planting seeds in the spring, or maybe the dangers of the winter road in spring. Trucks. Maybe I'm going to tell you how to change the oil in your truck, or maybe I'm going to talk about road trips in my truck. Snow. Maybe I'm going to write a little thing for why snow isn't safe to eat that I'm going to talk to my kindergartens about. Or maybe I'm going to write about how to make the perfect snowman. Art. Maybe I'm going to talk about painting techniques for realistic animals. Or maybe I'm going to talk about the faults of the group of 7 painters. Group of 7. All right. Here is the actual assignment. Choose 2 of the general topics listed below. For each topic that you choose, create a title for 2 different paragraph ideas. You do not need to write the paragraphs, just the title idea. You also have the option of listing a topic of your own and then creating still 2 specific subjects. So for example, if my idea was planes, My first idea for a paragraph might be my first time flying, or my idea number 2 might be explaining how to become a pilot. So just think of 2 different ideas. Our topics are moose hunting, powwows, hockey, children's clothing, Native Canadian culture, fishing, or any other topic you want to use. Here is a little chart that you can set up. I kind of added this to make the assignment easier. The assignment hasn't changed anyway, just I've added this table. It's still the exact same. I'm just trying to make it more obvious that I'm just looking for a title. Okay, that's all it is. So for topic number 1, I would put my topic, and then I'd put my 2 different ideas for paragraphs, and then I'd pick a second topic, and then I'd pick 2 different other ideas for my paragraphs. Okay, part B of this assignment. The main purpose of writing. Main purpose is sometimes it's called PI, to stand for the 3 different purposes for writing. One is to entertain, which is the goal of most fiction, short stories, songs. To inform. Informing is simply trying to tell people about something. It can be the goal of informational writing, or public service posters or announcements, newspaper or magazine articles, procedural writing. To persuade. Persuade can be a component of informational writing, but it's more likely to be found in things like opinion columns, letters, advertising, reviews, and sometimes even fiction. Even though technically fiction is about entertaining, a lot of times in fiction, the author might have an idea that they want to change, or an idea they want to introduce, that they want people to start to think differently. They're usually kind of cagey and don't say that, though. All right, specific goals. Specific texts may have more specific goals. Like maybe I'm trying to persuade, but specifically I'm trying to persuade you to buy this new truck. Or I may be trying to inform you. That's my main overall goal. But specifically, I'm trying to inform you about climate change. So looking at these, I'm kind of giving a specific writing type and asking you, what am I trying to do? What are my 3 main possibilities? Inform, persuade, or entertain. So if I was trying to write a recipe down for a friend who wants to make chocolate chip cookies, am I trying to inform them, persuade them, or entertain them? Inform them. I already know how to do it. I'm not trying to persuade them. They already want to do it. And I'm not trying to entertain them. I'm just trying to tell them how to do it. You are writing a funny story for a nephew you are trying to cheer up while he is sick. Well, I'm not really trying to inform him, and I'm not trying to persuade him of anything. I'm just trying to entertain him. I'm trying to make him laugh, trying to make him feel a little better, get his mind off being sick. You are writing a letter to your boss, trying to convince him to upgrade the computers. Well, I'm not necessarily just trying to inform him of what might be part of it. I'm kind of trying to persuade him, right? I'm trying to convince him to take a certain action, right? I'm definitely not trying to entertain him by talking about that. Okay. So this one just has 3 little questions. Identify the purpose of the following topic sentences that might appear at the beginning of various types of writing. Circle the purpose. So number 1 is, the best snowmobile on the planet is the Arctic cat. Am I trying to inform, persuade, or entertain? Jimmy went to school so that he could stay out of jail. Am I trying to inform, persuade, or entertain? Let me tell you about the time Gary and I stayed out all night and the fun we had. Am I trying to inform you, persuade you, or entertain you? All right. And then we're going to be moving on to, part C. Part C is about audience. Audience is the person or people who will read your writing. Thinking about your audience is going to help you figure out the content, what you're going to write about, the language, the words you use, the tone, how you write. When we speak, we generally modify or change what we talk about and how we talk about it according to our partners in the conversation, including our audience. That's always very obvious when we're talking, right? Nobody's just standing around in a room talking to nobody, not usually anyways. But when we're writing, we're so often not seeing our audience that it can be easy to forget that there's still another person on the other side of our writing who's going to be reading it, and we need to change how we write depending on who that person or people are. Okay? Let me think here. So part C is all about audience. An audience can be a very large audience. It could be very vague and general, or it could be very specific and small. Some large aspects of audience are things like age groups, gender, income, race, nationality, education, religion. Some smaller activities or categories could include things like enjoying specific activities or hobbies, having similar illnesses or diseases, owning similar possessions or wanting to own them, doing a similar job or profession, living in a certain region or city, having or wanting a certain lifestyle such as van life, eating or drinking certain kinds of food and beverages, having gone through similar experiences like did you survive Katrina hurricane? Audiences always make me think of advertisers because it's really common for advertisers to be marketing or writing ads to target a certain group of people. For example, a Dodge Caravan is often marketed to moms as a family car that's safe and big enough to carry their children plus their friends, plus sports equipment for an affordable price. Jeeps, on the other hand, are often marketed as a car geared more towards men who want to have adventure and generally have the money to afford a car that is not quite so practical. However, audience is not only about advertising. Every writer and every type of writing has a certain audience they're aiming for. So, for example, magazines like The New Yorker are deliberately targeted not just towards people who live in New York, but towards intellectuals, artists, book lovers, journalists. It has a real reputation for in-depth reporting. A magazine like Cosmopolitan is more geared towards women, generally the younger age bracket. They're not usually targeting older people. It's really very fashion and makeup oriented, a lot of racy kind of articles. Even schools and nonprofit organizations may have a certain market or target for their product or service. A prep high school in Toronto might be geared towards rich people. A special needs high school in Toronto might be geared towards students who need a lower class size and more assistance. And then you can have really extremely specific audiences for certain kinds of writing. One specific boss who you're trying to get a job with. A specific professor that you're trying to ask for an extension from. A love letter to one certain girl. A wedding toast to a particular friend. In this case, you may know the person quite well and be able to target your message to that person with their specific qualities and specific characteristics. So, how does audience change our text and our speech? It can change the level of our language, formal versus informal. I'm actually going to put that, I don't like that, it's not really formal. That is not correct. The level of the language, like the vocabulary, sentence length, or the use of slang. It might change your tone, soothing, angry, upfront, sad, funny. It might change the type of details you use to explain something. So I might be more formal with someone in authority versus someone at my own level, right? So a friend or a colleague I might talk to very differently than I might talk to somebody who's like the giant owner of the company who has the ability to fire me. I might be more tactful with someone who might get their feelings hurt versus someone who might not care as much. Some people I might be more open and honest with. Some people I might be more comfortable using slang with. All those kinds of things. So for this part, part C, you're going to write a message differently to suit different audiences. Use your understanding of audience to give the same message to these different people. Your overall purpose is to inform. Your message isn't going to change, but the words and the tone, the language level, and the sentence structure will change to be most effective or appropriate to each audience. Your message is simple, just that you do not feel well and you will not be attending classes today. Write at least 2 to 3 sentences for each person you're talking to. It cannot be the exact same sentence repeated over and over again. This one is worth 6 marks, basically about 2 marks for each one. So tell your teacher that you're not going to attend classes. How would you say that? Tell your aunt or uncle that you're not planning to go to school today. Again, how would you say that differently? And then telling your best friend that you're not going to come to school today. How would you say that differently? Okay. Oh, hang on a second. I kept using the phrase 2 marks, 1 mark for each good sentence. What do I mean by a good sentence? Well, first of all, it should be complete. The sentence should have a subject, a verb, and it expresses a complete thought. Then it also modifies the writing to suit the audience in the areas of the language level, which could be the greeting, the use of slang, vocabulary, word choice. It could also go to the tone, formal, informal, serious, casual, complete, informative, persuasive. Sorry guys, my voice went on my there. Sentence length and variety, short and to the point, longer and more complex, the type of details. Oh, so this shouldn't take too long, but when I read it, I should be able to tell who you're talking to, right? If you're talking to your teacher about being sick, that's very different than how you might talk to your best friend, right? And your aunt or uncle might be different depending on, are they taking care of you? Are you just letting them know because, I don't know, maybe somebody was giving you a ride to school? I'm not really sure why aunt and uncle versus mom and dad. I didn't really pick that one. At that point, that is everything for assignment 32. Sorry, normally this takes me a little bit longer. I think I'm talking a little bit fast today. I apologize. Okay. We're moving on to talk about Jimmy Comes Home. Chapter 7, which is Chance. Remember, Chance is the baby's name, right? Teresa goes to Jimmy's place to talk to his grandmother, Martha. She wants to know why Jimmy isn't talking to her. She's also upset that he isn't coming to see the baby. His grandmother has tried to talk to him about this as well. She says that when she tries talking to him about it, Jimmy stops talking and either goes to his room or out to his snowmobile whenever she's tried to discuss it with him. Jimmy's grandmother tells Teresa that she would be happy to babysit, though, if she needs someone to help with the baby. Later on, Teresa decides to just take the baby over to his house so he can't avoid them anymore. Jimmy actually tries to leave when he sees them, but his grandmother insists that he show respect and basically kind of forces them to stay. And then Grandma goes off to the store to try to give them some privacy so they can talk about all there is to talk about. They kind of try to talk about why Jimmy isn't currently talking to Teresa, why he's avoiding her, but that conversation doesn't go very well. Finally, Teresa leaves and Grandma comes back with pizza. At that point, his friend Ken comes over and Grandma invites Ken to join them for supper, but Ken refuses because he wants to talk to Jimmy alone. Ken has been sent by Gary and Wayne to tell Jimmy about a trip to Thompson for drugs. They're going to wait at the cabin for 2 hours, but then they'll go without him. Jimmy thinks this is a bad idea, not only due to the cops, but also due to the thin ice that's going on right then. He goes to the meeting, but he only goes to try and convince them not to go. They're very upset about this. They have a big argument about it, and they decide to go anyways. And they really look down on him for not coming along too. Jimmy has a really bad feeling in his gut about all of this. Then Quintel, the teacher, gets him to stay after school the next day. They talk about everything that's going on. She tries to encourage him, but he feels very skeptical and very angry. He's pretty cynical about his future, right? She also does try and get him to go visit his son, and he ends up being glad he's talked to her after everything's over. And at that point, the chapter ends. So, stopping to think about what we've just read. A lot of times when we're reading novels, we can kind of just zip along quickly and not really engage with the material. I know I do that all the time. Taking the time to stop and think about what we read can help us to understand the material in a deeper level. So, like, have you ever spent time talking with a friend about a favorite movie? And often that can lead to a better understanding and more appreciation of the movie through that conversation. That's what we're trying to do here, basically. Okay, so we talked a lot in chapter 1 about reading, not chapter 1, unit 1, about reading strategies, and I'm going to kind of tie back into them again because we are going to be discussing them somewhat in unit 4. So I want to make sure that we're using them here, okay? Making connections, that's one of our strategies. Have you ever been in a situation like Jimmy's? How did it make you feel? What choices did you make? How does thinking about your personal experiences affect how you think about Jimmy? So when I said in a situation like Jamie's, I'm thinking specifically of being in that situation where he's trying to avoid drugs and alcohol, and his friends are really strongly trying to get him to do drugs or alcohol. The other thing is this situation with his baby mama, Teresa. He's very sort of embarrassed and guilty by the situation, and it sounds like he's just sort of hoping, like, if I just don't think about this, maybe it'll all go away. And obviously that's not a very grown-up way for Jimmy to be thinking, but I can understand that, right? It's a really big thing. He doesn't feel ready to be a dad. That's another part of his situation that you could talk about if you wanted to. Inferences. Inferences when we read between the lines, right? A lot of times in novels, it doesn't just come right out and say things. They want you to kind of look at people's actions and make some reasonable guesses or inferences as to what they're feeling and thinking based on those actions. So, looking at this chapter, how do you think that Jimmy feels during his conversation with Quintel? And why do you think that he feels that way? What's making you believe that? And then asking questions. I wonder why Gary sent Ken instead of just coming to talk to Jimmy himself. I'm going to assume he kind of thought, like, maybe if I add one more friend to the mix, maybe that will be the convincing factor. But I don't know. It's kind of weird, right? Because him and Gary are supposed to be best friends. Why does Gary keep trying to get Jimmy involved at all, even though Jimmy keeps telling him that he doesn't want to do drugs anymore? And, when Jimmy says no, he doesn't just be like, oh, okay, cool, no problem, I just asked. He gets furious. He's so upset with Jimmy for not wanting to do drugs with him. He's absolutely just in a fury about it. And why is that? My guess is that he feels left behind, right? He doesn't want Jimmy to change because then he's not really going to have Jimmy for a friend anymore because he's not planning to change. He's still planning to do drugs. And if Jimmy stops, I think he kind of realizes, well, that means we're not going to be friends anymore. So Jimmy saying, no, I don't want to do drugs is a little bit like him saying, I don't want to be your friend anymore. I don't think that's how he means it. I think it's just kind of how it ends up kind of coming across. Making predictions. I think that Gary might try and get revenge on Jimmy if he doesn't help out. It really seems like he's just determined to drag Jimmy back into that addicted lifestyle again. I honestly think that Gary is maybe just so miserable, he doesn't really care anymore about the consequences to anything else. All he's trying to do is make his own life easier and really not worry about who he's hurting, right? So we're doing this for a couple reasons. One, I want us to kind of stop and think about the novel as we go along. Two, if you look ahead to Unit 4 and Assignment 40, we end up having to do some of these kind of thinking all over again when we get to that point. So I wanted to kind of just role model. This isn't involved with any specific assignment right now. It's just kind of trying to make sure that you're practicing these skills so that you're able to use them and able to talk about them, okay? And then, okay, you can go ahead and read Chapter 8 next. But do not go on to chapter 9 yet, because in assignment 40, we do some predictions about chapter 9, and then we finish reading it. So if you go ahead and read chapter 9 now, it's not going to be too easy to do that particular assignment. So I would rather you wait if you could. I would really, really appreciate that. Okay, tomorrow we will tackle assignment 33 and maybe 34 if we have time. If anyone is needing help with any specific assignment, please reach out to me. I know in this unit is not too bad. Some people have a bit of trouble with the resumes or the cover letters. In the previous unit, assignment 24 about the paragraph, and assignment 26, sometimes people kind of leave those to the end. If you're having trouble with those, please reach out to me. I would be happy to talk about it with you and help you kind of get over that spot. All right. Thank you so much for meeting with me tonight, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you.